This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Packers will close out the offseason program tomorrow with the final OTA on the practice field. This week has just been with the rookies, with Coach Matt LaFleur giving the veterans the week off. But before they left for summer break, LaFleur did deliver a message to them.
I feel like we've got a really solid foundation right now, but it doesn't matter unless you maximize these next 47 days prior to training camp. So the work that they put in will show itself in training camp. And so the message is just they got to push it, man, in every aspect, mentally, physically, psychologically. Every aspect is going to impact their game.
Again, the Packers will close things out tomorrow. First day of training camp set for July 29th. Turning to Wisconsin, they continue to build out their 2027 recruiting class yesterday with the addition of three-star edge rusher Brody Fanisteel. The Kansas product had been committed to Texas Tech since March. He had offers from Iowa, Duke, Illinois, Minnesota, and others. His commitment number 23 for the Badgers in a class that was ranked number 18th in the country, according to 24/7 Sports. Wisconsin in the midst of summer workouts. They open the season September 6th against Notre Dame at Lambeau Field.
Everyone should feel confident about their path forward. Exact Sciences has teamed up with UW Athletics to help promote eradicating cancer by preventing it, detecting it earlier, and guiding personalized treatment. The Exact Sciences Athletes Program is unique as it connects UW student athletes with Exact Sciences' work to provide breakthroughs in cancer care and treatment. Exact Sciences and UW Athletics helping raise cancer awareness to make a difference in the Madison community. Learn more at exactsciences.com.
Well, the Brewers and Guardians matching up in Game 2 of their series tonight in Milwaukee. The Crew took the opener 2-1 last night. The two sides will close things out tomorrow afternoon before the Brewers head to Atlanta. And everyone's still waiting to see if the Bucks can trade Giannis Antetokounmpo before the draft gets going next Tuesday. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
Is the position you guys are in, if you're starting pitching, how nice is it to see Robert go out there and do what he did?
Yeah, I mean, we could have left him in too, but he hasn't been that far. And, today's game, you're playing to win. You're not playing to get distance out of pitchers and things like that. So we played to win. Luckily got the win.
How was he good? What did you see from him? Why was he so effective?
Yeah, I mean, right-handers, he had that fastball up and away, the top rail, and he's able to execute that, get ahead in the count, and then execute that a lot on righties. He was effective against righties, and some lefties, but walked too many. How many did he walk? 4? 3? Only 2? Okay. All right. Yeah, he attacked the zone pretty good. Handled righties with that kind of up and away fastball and on the top rail. His off-speed stuff was decent, and it has to come along for him to be a mainstay in our rotation. It has to come along too.
I think in the middle innings I found a groove of getting ahead early and getting some early contact. Those first two, had some longer innings, but like I said, in the middle innings, got able to get ahead early.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
That's Pat Murphy talking about Robert Gasser last night, and Robert Gasser talking about, Robert Gasser himself in his performance. That's where I want to start tonight. I told you as we were wrapping up the show last night, I was excited to watch Cooper Pratt making his major league debut. I thought going into last night, Robert Gasser's performance and maybe continued development. I don't know that he's developing. I just think he's reestablishing himself coming back from Tommy John. I thought that was the bigger story last night because I think they have a bigger need in the back end of their rotation than they currently do at shortstop or third base, however you want to look at it, the left side of the infield. And I know that the offense has been, for stretches, really non-existent from the left side of the infield, but that hasn't stopped them from winning games. I'm concerned with some of the injuries and the upheaval in their rotation that at a certain point, that could prevent them from winning games. So to see Gasser kind of maybe take another step, further reestablish himself coming back from Tommy John. That was the story for me last night. That's where I want to start. A couple of other Brewers tidbits here in the first segment. We'll talk about Robert Gasser and Cooper Pratt. We'll talk about him as well, and I'll take your calls throughout the show on the Brewers. I want to get into the Packers a little bit. Another Giannis thing I want to discuss, Jesse Temple. It's Wednesday, so he'll be here at 5:30 to talk Badgers. It's the Wisco Sports Show. Appreciate you being here. Thank you for listening. Always, you can watch and listen to the show on our handy-dandy Wisco Sports Zone app, which I used this afternoon to listen to the camp, Zach and Jesse, to prepare for Jesse's appearance to get up to date with what's been going on with football recruiting. Another really nice move. They flipped a big-time recruit from Kansas off of Texas Tech, now coming to Wisconsin in the class 2027. Their class is up to 23 players, I think, if I remember correctly. So we'll discuss that. I was using the app to listen to the camp earlier, but of course you can listen to Ebo over the line in the morning, Bill Michaels in the afternoon, this show, clearly, and the podcast and live stream for all of our programming every single day. I'll take your calls, like I said, on the Brewers or anything else. 608-321-1670. You can comment on the live stream as well. I'm on Twitter at Wisco Grant. I think the biggest story going with the Brewers right now is the rotation past Mizorowski and Harrison. They're a 2 starting pitcher team right now, or they have been. And I hope that they continue to trend away from that. And I hope Brandon Sproat continues to establish himself little by little. I want to get to the point with Brandon Sproat where I feel confident that, let's say, he's going to pitch into the 5th. Completing 5 for that guy seems a little, it seems maybe a little overzealous. So let's say on a start-to-start basis with Brandon Sproat, can we get to the point where I think he's going to pitch into the 5th? Can we get there? And with Robert Gasser pitched 5 2/3 last night. Can we get to the point with Robert Gasser and Brandon Sproat where they are giving the Brewers what basically they could count on from Logan Henderson, which is 5 and change, 2 earned runs or less? Maybe never going to be brilliant, although Logan Henderson had a brilliant start or two, and Sproat has as well. I don't need Sproat or Gasser or Drowan. I don't need any of these guys who are currently filling up the back end of the rotation to be Miz or to be Harrison. Don't need that. But we can't have 3 1/3. We can't have a 4-inning start. We can't have 4 1/3 and 5 earned runs. You gotta cut those starts out. Use a golf analogy, right? Your golf round is often not defined by your best shots. Sometimes it's defined by your worst. You know what I mean? Can you cut out the triple or the quadruple bogeys? Now, when your best shots are as good as Jacob Mizorowski and Kyle Harrison, you can get away with some bad shots. Don't get me wrong, because like every 5 days, the Brewers are shooting an eagle with Harrison and Miz, basically. So it's not that the Brewers can never have a 4-inning start. It's not that they can never shank one out of bounds. Like, they can, but as the season goes along, to become a little less dependent on Miz and Harrison, I think would be a great thing for this team. Use another analogy. Everyone just rewatching Mad Men since last December when it went on to on HBO Max. Their big client is Lucky Strike, right? And they get to a point where Lucky Strike comprises like 70% of their business. And it's not bad to have a client that big. It's not bad to have an asset that large. But you don't want to be like precariously relying on it. Like, it's great that the Brewers are currently shooting an eagle every 5 days and shooting a double, with and shooting birdies with Harrison. You don't want to be absolutely, totally, and completely reliant on it. And I think at times over the last couple of weeks, the Brewers have been where it's like, well, what if Miz gets a blister and needs to miss a start or two? Like, that reality kind of scares me. What if in Mad Men, sorry, spoiler alert, Lucky Strike eventually leaves and there goes 60, 70% of your billings out the door? Like, they've just been really, really top heavy. And the star power is real. Like, you can win a lot of games just based off Miz and Harrison alone. But at a certain point, you're going to need a little bit more from the back half of your rotation. Sproat has the stuff, and that's why the Brewers have given him all this leash. And I think, knock on wood, I hope he's starting to reward them a little bit. Gasser is mostly pitching right now because they have no one else. Priester is hurt. Woodruff is hurt. Henderson is hurt. Robert Gasser is making starts every 5 days or 4, 5, 6 days, whatever, because they have to, because they need him. But over his last 3 starts, and again, these aren't incredible numbers. These aren't awesome numbers, but the Brewers don't need them to be incredible. The Brewers don't need Robert Gasser's starts to be amazing. The last 3 starts, so let's just look at the month of June. Against the Giants, 5 innings pitched, 5 hits, 1 earned run. That was the game they lost 1-0. That's not, like, I will take that. I will take that every single time from Robert Gasser. Against the Athletics, that game was a little weird. I didn't come away from that game feeling better about Robert Gasser, but I didn't necessarily come away from that game feeling worse. 5 innings pitched, 8 hits, 6 earned runs. Okay, maybe that starts a little weird. I thought there were some promising signs there, but then last night, you really, especially in those middle innings, started to see him cruise, sequencing the breaking ball and the fastball and figuring out, okay, when I can pitch to soft contact, when he can aim to get a strikeout. 5 strikeouts last night and 5 2/3. That's not nothing for Robert Gasser, whose stuff isn't overwhelming, but he finishes with 5 2/3, 2 hits, and only 2 walks. But you heard Murph in the intro. If you've joined us since the first minute or two of the show, Murph and his presser still walking too many guys. How many walks did he have tonight? 4? 3? The guys in the beat are like, no, it was 2, Pat. And they were back to back. I think they were maybe both in the second inning. You tip your cap a little bit to some of the Guardians hitters. They're without a lot of firepower, a lot of injuries, but they operate not that dissimilarly from the Brewers, where it's like, we're going to make you work, even if we're only going to score 1 run. That's the only run that the Guardians were able to muster last night, but we're going to try to take a bite out of you on the way. And in that second inning, I believe it was the second inning, they did make Gasser work, but 2 walks, 5 2/3. I will absolutely take that from Robert Gasser, and it looks like there's maybe some continued development there. The difference between Robert Gasser at his worst, which is what we saw when he was up, or Brandon Sproat at his worst, and we've seen that, and the current version, this version of Gasser, or hopefully where Sproat is heading, that difference, that delta, that improvement, I think will be much more helpful to the Brewers than whatever marginal improvement, whatever marginal delta I think they're going to get from Cooper Pratt. And you saw last night, like, good bat skills, no strikeouts, putting the ball in play. Now he went 0 for last night, but I mean, you look up and down the lineup card, geez, I mean, Christian Yelich 0 for, Churio 0 for, Contreras 0 for, brutal. Bowers 0 for, Vaughn 0 for, like a lot of 0 fors last night. So Pratt wasn't the only one. It was actually a pretty boring baseball game. Luckily we had, God, how many in-game interviews did they do last night? And I know Milken and it's cancer research. I know it's for a good cause, but it's like, oh my God. I was listening on the radio for the first couple innings. I heard his interview there, and then I switched over to TV, and then I had to hear it again. And then Sophia's in the stands. It was a good interview with Cooper Pratt's family, but I'm like, the game just had me wanting to pull my hair out. Most of all, when Murph went to Sal Frelick off the bench over Andrew Vaughn. I think Andrew Vaughn's numbers this year are maybe a little overstated. Well, let me back that up, because I guess I'm not smart enough to exactly explain what his splits are saying. I think a lot of Brewers fans are saying, why is he not playing every single day? And I would tell those Brewers fans to say, oh, okay, well, I think what they're doing is actually working. And I think splitting his time occasionally with Bowers is smart. I don't need them to continue to jack up Vaughn's workload because this is working. Under no circumstance do I ever want Andrew Vaughn with 2 outs pulled out of the batter's box for Sal Frelick. And I know Murph after the game last night explained, well, we like that, this matchup, and Sal's been clutch, which isn't true. So for whatever reason, their numbers or their logic told them that Sal Frelick was the right choice there. If Sal Frelick is the answer to your question right now, offensively, you're asking the wrong question. Maybe your equation gave you the answer of Sal Frelick should pinch hit here. Maybe. But I'm telling you, you're using a bad equation. That I couldn't believe that last night. But there's, again, the value of home runs. We've talked about this. I'm just kind of going all over the place on last night's Brewer game. That's why home runs are valuable. You can steal a game in which Yelich, Churio, Contreras, Bowers all go over, can have Terang rope one over the fence. And Garrett Mitchell, if that bat doesn't explain the promise and the intrigue of Garrett Mitchell, I don't know what does. He didn't even swing that hard. Watch Garrett Mitchell sometimes, and I'm like, it looks like he's just throwing the bat at the ball. Just little slap shot. Like Terang has this big lean back and this big smooth stroke, and Yelich needs to start his swing before the ball's even out of the pitcher's hand. But with Garrett Mitchell, there's so much pop. It's like he's using a bat that has explosives on the end. And he hit 111 off the bat, and he didn't even follow through on his swing. It looked like my golf swing where I'm just hacking at the ball. He just threw the bat head out and popped it out to right center at 111 miles an hour. So you saw the value of the occasional home run last night. The bullpen, I actually thought Ashby minus the wild pitch was fine. McGill was really good again. I think Uribe looked like more of the same. Now, he got 2 guys to strike out the second with a really good breaking ball that he located well, but he's still not locating his slider very well, which he needs to do to be a high-level pitcher. And you heard BA pointed out on the broadcast, he's back for 1 game, and he's already like, hey, it looks like these Guardians hitters are just sitting fastball because they know he can't locate his slider. Yes, that's exactly what they're doing. And they were doing it to, great success. The Guardians are good at putting bat to ball. They're good at fighting. So they're just going to fight off that 100-mile-an-hour sinker. I know it's 100, and he was located and okay, he actually pitched pretty well along the top of the zone, at least to my mind's eye. I'm not a pitching analyst. But a lot of non-competitive pitches with the slider, including 2 wild pitches. Just wild pitched the entire ballpark last night. Just a carousel of wild pitches between Ashby and between Uribe. But even in a game where all of their top hitters kind of combined to go over, other than Terang, and a game where they didn't have one of their aces on the mound, they're able to win a game 2-0. And they're winning at a really high clip. I screenshotted this Vasallo tweet. The Brewers are a Major League best 31-13 since April 26th. They're at a franchise record pace again at this portion of the season. And I think last night, big picture, with your 5th best starter on the mound, your 5th current best starter, he's probably really in the org right now if everyone is healthy, like the 7th or 8th best pitcher at best. You have one of your lower end starters on the mound. Your setup guy didn't really have it, and none of your top bats other than Terang had it going. And you win a game 2-1 because, the Brewers are really good at winning baseball games. I think the NL Central right now, just night to night, is a good case study of all the ethos of the different teams. The Brewers are a winning team. They expect to win. They know how to win, and they win even on nights where they're not awesome. The Cubs are the opposite. The Reds are the opposite, and I'm a little shocked that Terry Francona hasn't done a little bit of that, hasn't fixed any of that. They're banged up, which doesn't help, but Jesus, still. And I think the Cardinals are a unique and interesting case study where they don't know what they don't know. They don't feel the weight of disappointment, and they don't feel the weight of coming up short of expectations because they had no expectations. They had no weight. And they're playing with that freedom right now. The Cubs are feeling that weight. I'm not sure what the Reds are feeling other than just being the Reds. They're the same team that we've watched. And the Brewers expect to win. They're a winning team, and they find ways to figure out how to win a baseball game even when they don't have their best starter and even when their offense is pretty quiet at home. And I'm remembering now when Cooper Pratt said yesterday, well, what did Murph tell you when you got up here? Be prepared to win. Okay. And secondarily, not what we need to talk about tonight, but that's why I don't love the idea of doing the thing that many Brewers fans want to do, which is go all in and then tear it down, and then go all in and tear it down, because you need to learn how to win again. It's tanking is such a great thing in theory. Well, you'll get a bunch of really young, good, talented players. Yeah, but then all those guys have to learn how to win all by themselves. Whereas now you can continue to bring guys up, and there's a standard and there's an expectation and there's, a certain way that the players and the coaches in the clubhouse go about it. So some opening thoughts on the Brewers. We're kind of all over the board. You can jump in on any of those things if you'd like. I'll give you some post-game comments from Cooper Pratt coming up next, and we can continue to talk Brewers, and I'll take your phone calls. 608-321-1670.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
It was exciting. I mean, obviously I didn't get my first knock or anything like that, but we won. So vibes were fantastic. Heart was rushing the first at bat and the first time I ran out there, but it was surreal. And then especially when McGill came in and all the lights flicked off. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, my favorite part was when McGill came in and the lights went all dark. Cooper Pratt after the game last night. Yeah, I didn't get a hit, but we won. Yeah, good. I care more about that. Cooper Pratt looked like more of the same at shortstop and third base, that left side of the infield. Now the hope, obviously, with the Brewers is he has a higher ceiling and he's going to continue to develop and grow. But you saw kind of why last night, in a tiny sample, of course. I'm not trying to be unfair. He looked pretty similar in his profile to Joey Ortiz. Like their profiles are actually very, very similar at shortstop offensively. So Cooper Pratt making his debut. Excited to watch him again tonight. It's always fun when top prospects are brought up and they're breaking into the major leagues. I thought Robert Gasser and his performance last night was the more significant story. So I gave you a comment on that to begin the show. I'll take your Brewers thoughts. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's that? Hey, Coach. How are things over in Tosa? Oh, good. I like that. Staying out, staying active. What'd you call him? Oh, okay, Bardice. Yeah, he did make it difficult. He made it difficult. I don't. Yeah, it's been a trend all year. He can't locate his breaking ball. That's going to limit him. And until he stops throwing sliders to the backstop, like this is what it's going to look like.
Him and Ashby made it look easy yesterday, that's for sure.
Well, McGill was the one who made it look easiest of all. Are you is what I'm hearing here, do you have a concern about the bullpen?
No, I mean, they're winning, so I'm not going to complain too much. But, hey, did you see that tweet yesterday from the Cubs fan? It was like, hey, the Cubs are terrible, but, man, Wrigleyville is awesome. Like, they're so bad they have to pulverize over their neighborhood.
The federal landmark.
Federal landmark, like we talked about yesterday. Yep.
Well, and the piss troughs and all of that stuff. The Cubs, I am mad, Coach Fried. They walked off the Athletics last week when they shouldn't have. They beat the Rockies the other night when they shouldn't have. They walked in a walk-off. Like, the Cubs they're down bad. They should be down even worse right now. So, selfishly, I'm a little upset about that, just as a hate watcher.
Hey, how funny was it? Yesterday we talked about Phil Maton giving up that home run to Mitchell, and then he goes and does it last night.
Yeah, he did.
Eerily similar.
That's because Coach Fried, I appreciate the call. That's what you can expect when Phil Maton takes the field. And Garrett Mitchell hitting a homer last night, too. Garrett Mitchell, sneaky, not even sneaky. He's having a great month of June. So maybe we'll get into that in a little bit more detail tomorrow. I want to work in some other things, some Packers and some Bucks talk throughout the rest of the show. But you see the appeal, man. Yeah, he strikes out a ton, but when he doesn't strike out, man, he does not miss. Maybe it was McCalvey or Rosiak last night tweeted, when Garrett Mitchell hits the ball, they stay hit. 111 off the bat, and he doesn't even look like he's swinging that hard. All right, line number 2, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant. Good Brewers win last night. I think you're being a little negative about the broadcast, about BA. It's a random Tuesday in June. It's a random Tuesday in June.
I didn't say anything about BA. Did I say anything about BA?
Well, your reaction, you're very defensive, so it makes me think you're either thinking something about BA or you have said something about BA in private.
That's true.
But last night's game, definition of a random Tuesday in June. I mean, for God's sakes, we have Rhys Hoskins hitting in a 3-hole for the Cleveland Guardians. Like, if there's a time to have some guy come in and talk about cancer, it's yesterday's game.
So that's true. You are correct. And what maybe the sneaky funniest part of last night's game, I was listening to the radio broadcast and they said, oh, and here's Rhys Hoskins hitting 184 on the season. He's mostly handling DH duties for them. I'm like, oh my God. Like, you can't, imagine if Joey Ortiz was our DH. Are you kidding me? Yeah. Random Tuesday indeed, Cone. You were correct.
I mean, Christian Yelich is our DH. So, like, I don't know if the Brewers have the most rope there to talk, you know?
Yeah, I was looking at some Yelich splits today because I thought I would find some sort of a damning smoking gun. It's like, he must suck in the leadoff spot, and he doesn't. It's like, well, his numbers must be bad in June, and they're actually pretty good. So I don't know why the stats aren't matching the eye test with Christian Yelich, but I'll find something.
Yeah, I mean, eye test, I feel like I'm Chuck Freeman's #1 fan, but eye test is important in baseball. And Chuck's a big proponent of the eye test, so another feather in Chuck's cap.
Second day in a row we are glazing Chuck Freeman. I'll have to send this to him.
Yeah, I think I just need to get some more hobbies or something. I don't know why Chuck's on my mind so much.
Not true.
Is it time to have like a Garrett Mitchell deep dive conversation? Like we, sample size is big enough this season. He stayed healthy. Like, what do we make of him?
So I really like, and Cone, we got jammed phone lines. So we're gonna leave it there. I promise, guys. Here's what I will do for you. We'll do a nice Garrett Mitchell segment tomorrow. Okay. No matter what he does tonight, absolutely deserves to be talked about. Very happy with what he's giving them as a 3rd or 4th outfielder in the bottom half of the order. 2 thumbs up. I am ill prepared to go deeper into his offensive profile. Let me do some reading tonight. Weather sucks. I'm not going to do anything after work, so I'm just going to go home. Plop down on the couch. Brewer Fanatic has a story about Mitchell. I'll dig into it. We'll talk about Garrett Mitchell tomorrow. I promise, because he definitely deserves to be discussed. Cone, you were right. We'll do a deep dive tomorrow. Line number 3, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, it's Brett from Bondwell. And hey, Grant, it's Pokemon Go night. Aren't you excited?
Is it Sprout night tonight?
Yeah, it should be Miz pitching. They should have moved it back a day. But no, you're talking about the broadcast, all those interviews and all that. I personally hope that tonight during one of the innings, it's a split screen of Miz playing Pokemon Go while explaining it to Bill Schroeder or something like that. Just, I don't think we have enough interviews going on during the game. So I think that'll be pretty fun.
I think at some point Miz will probably be they have to do something with Miz on Pokemon Go night. Like they'll send him out into the crowd, or like they need to.
Yeah, I hope so. But yeah, I was just about to talk about Garrett Mitchell, but I guess I'll hold that for tomorrow.
No, you can. I don't have it. You feel free, please.
No. I got something else. So I looked up. So Pokemon Go came out July 6th, 2016. The Brewers lost 7-4 to the Nats. And I want you to guess who was starting that day.
Oh, my God. 2016?
Yep.
Oh, my God. That team was so bad. God, I wouldn't even know where to start.
All right, well, it was Matt Garza. Shocker.
So that was actually going to be my guess, but I thought, appreciate it, Brett. I thought he wasn't still in town in 2016, was he? Matt Garza. Well, now clearly I'm going to go back and look at that box score now. 2016, man, that was a great summer. What a great year 2016 was. One of my favorite years, 2016, 2021. I think 2026, there's a lot of good things going on in 2026. Not everything's perfect. Gas is kind of expensive. That sucks, but I think we're going to look back at 2026 and consider this to be an okay year, despite, complaining about everything. I think we're doing pretty good right now, but 2016, 2021, prime years, even though the Brewers were just terrible in 2026 or 2016. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant, Clemhead Mike.
Good evening, Clemhead. How are you?
Oh, good. How are you, Grant? I'm sorry I didn't have a chance to watch your show on YouTube the last 2 days. I was so busy, but I listened on the radio. But I didn't have a chance to talk to you about the Mizuruski's game on Friday. I have watched 2 of Nolan Ryan's no-hitters, and I think this was more dominating. I get a kick out of it in the past how official scorers, if a guy was throwing a no-hitter, how loose they would come with the errors.
Yeah.
There was a guy that hit a sinking line drive to right field, and Ryan's right fielder ran like the devil to try to catch. He dove, and the ball just hit the edge of his glove, and they called it an error. So, which I agree with. I mean, yeah, give the guy a no-hitter, but yeah, but Miz's performance was legendary. I've watched a lot of baseball in my life, and that was probably the best pitching performance I've ever seen in my 69 years of existence.
So I'm glad that you said this, Clemhead, and I'm just going to leave it there. We'll talk more later this week. I got one more caller I want to get to, but I want to leave it there because I want to circle back to that for those who missed kind of our conversation about it on Monday. I think that game's more impressive than probably many no-hitters and no perfect games. And I don't say that just to, it's my Brewer guy, and you need to think that game kicked ass. Like, I think it's one of, if I remember correctly, the stat from Kurt, he had it in the Journal Sentinel, it's one of only 3 games in Major League Baseball history with a certain number of strikeouts. I don't know if it was 15 or 14 or whatever it was. It was one of only 3 games in Major League Baseball history with that many strikeouts. There was a complete game shutout that faced the minimum or something like that. So that could include perfect games, no hitters. I think that game was more impressive than a lot of perfect games or no hitters. Not all, but to do it with that many strikeouts and to strike out that many that efficiently. It's not like he needed to throw 115 pitches. So yeah, Clemhead, I'm absolutely with you. I think it's probably undoubtedly the best start in Brewers history with respect to Juan Nieves and Bill Schroeder. Who is he? Does he do Brewer games anymore? Speaking of announcers, I'm not ripping Brian Anderson, by the way, Cone. Where did that come from? 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Grant, Tony from Texas. I thought you did rip BA. I thought I heard something about that.
I mentioned that this was his first game in a while. Is that illegal?
No, it's fine, Grant. The man's earned it, though. Hey, I thought CC Sabathia, when he pitched in a couple of those games back at Miller Park or County Stadium? I don't even remember. I think it was Miller Park.
Definitely Miller
I
Park.
thought he was just as dominant as The Miz, but I mean, maybe statistically, maybe it was just a vibe or what I was feeling that day. But, CC to me reminds me of what The Miz is doing right now. And Grant, that Cooper Pratt highlight, that dude sounds like Beavis and Butthead. So that dude's from Florida. I mean, that guy did not help the Florida people. Florida, duh. Man, that Cooper Pratt, I hope he's a smart guy because he sounded like an idiot. That was kind of funny.
Well,
you want to play that again for me?
Yeah,
I got to dig a lot of that.
Here it is.
It was exciting. I mean, obviously, I didn't get my first knock or anything like that, but we won. So vibes were fantastic. Heart was rushing the first at bat and the first time I ran out there, but it was surreal. And then especially when McGill came in and all the lights flicked off, that was pretty cool.
So I don't think he sounded stupid, Tony, but
it's not that bad.
It is funny that he's like, and then they turned all the lights off when Trevor McGill came out. That was pretty cool. It was very innocent. It's endearing.
Yeah, and hopefully he can hit a fastball. That's all I care. Hit a fastball, hit a curveball, don't make errors. Hey, last thing on Giannis really quick.
Yes.
You think Giannis is going to go full Favre on the Vikings right now on us?
You mean if he is traded to
straight
another
up
team?
Dylan, well, we hate the Celtics. I like what you said about that. If you go to the Celtics, you're going to cheer against them, which I like that. I like that. You got that little zest in you. Cheer against Giannis. And how Favre came back for those 2 years, Packer fans turned on him. You think that'll happen in Milwaukee? I don't know. Maybe. I think Giannis is the heel type, so maybe it'll happen. But I just don't get this trade, man. I don't understand why he wants to get traded. I don't know. I just, guys like Dirk or players like that, I just respect him more, man. I don't know, man. It's not my life, but that's just how I feel.
So we'll talk more about this at 5:00, Tony. I appreciate it. I think there's a chance that Giannis looks better than you would think coming up this year because he basically just took this last year off. And he's not playing for Greece this summer for the first time in a million years. So I think whatever team gets him this year, I think they'll get the best version that can possibly be had of Giannis at this age. I think he'll probably be pretty good. Does that mean his body will allow him to stay healthy in a way that he hasn't been in recent? I don't know. But I think he'll be best positioned probably for the first time in a while. I want to talk Packers next. We'll get into Giannis at 5:00. Jesse Temple will be here at 5:30. But one or two Packers items that I want to hit coming up next. We haven't really gotten into the Packers this week, so we'll do that on the other side of this very quick break. We'll hear from some of our sponsors. We'll be right back.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Shopping for new windows and doors shouldn't feel like a negotiation. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin doesn't believe in games. They never inflate pricing, and there's no high-pressure sales pitch. Just premium windows and doors built for long-term comfort, beauty, and peace of mind. Buy direct through Pella, and one trusted team handles everything with Pella-certified installers every step of the way. Real pricing, premium quality, no games. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Schedule your free in-home consultation today at PellaWI.com.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will begin in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
You had Emmanuel. He's not here anymore. There was good depth when he was here. Without him, how much work do you have ahead of you to make sure that number 2 running back position is really secure?
We got the guys. Obviously, staying healthy is going to be a part of it. I think, if you look at, even a guy like Chris Brooks, like last year, we didn't use him as much carrying the ball, but his first year, he was really effective, with the ball in his hands. Obviously, he's not a open field, explosive type of runner from that standpoint. But what he brings us to that table is a guy that's going to be forceful, runs with purpose, and is a lot better, with the football in his hands than what, sometimes we give him credit for, just because last year, his carries and stuff, they went down in comparison to his first year. And then obviously we all know who we're waiting, it's his time, and still having a guy like Marshawn, in play, who's been looking really good. He feels really confident, feels like the things that he did in the offseason has gotten him to the point where, he feels good that, he's ready to come in and contribute.
That's Ben Sermons. Earlier this month, Packers running back coach just asked about running back depth. And, it's especially important. I don't think it was included in the question. I'd have to go back and listen again. But we don't even know the situation with Josh Jacobs. Could be suspended, could be arrested, or could be nothing. But even so, even if Josh Jacobs plays, never misses a game, running back depth is a big part of the story, I think, of this Packers offseason. So I want to talk about it a little bit. Some reporting on Marshawn Lloyd's health that we can get into. I have another Jordan Love, Matt LaFleur topic I want to hit before we wrap up hour number 1. And we'll talk a little bit about Giannis, Jesse Temple in 1 hour. Take your phone calls as well if you want to talk Packers, 608-321-1670. I've expressed lots of Packers pessimism outside of the naturally occurring, Matt LaFleur skepticism that I think people just carry around with them in 2026. I think even if they had drafted all of the players that Packers fans wanted, and even if they had signed every player in free agency, and if the Packers had pulled out every stop, team building wise this offseason, hired a great defensive coordinator, everybody loves him, I think a lot of people would still look at the Packers and say, well, if Matt LaFleur's a head coach, they're boned. And I don't think they're boned, but it's hard to not have some skepticism about Matt LaFleur after how this last year ended, especially after how the year before ended. I have just more Packers pessimism that's unrelated to Matt LaFleur. They're just going to need a lot of things to go right, as we've discussed. There's a lot of question marks, and a lot of question marks for a team that's supposedly all in. If they were a rebuilding team and Jordan Love was taking over as the starter this year, fine. They had a lot of question marks in 2023, but that was a year for question marks. This type of year is not a season you want a bunch of question marks. I don't know about the kicker. I don't know about the left tackle. I don't know about the depth on the defensive line or at corner. I don't know if Matthew Golden is ready to step up and carry the freight. Oh, your 2 best players maybe on each side of the ball, Micah Parsons and Tucker Kraft, are coming back from torn ACLs. That's complicated, right? And as I mentioned a couple minutes ago, the running back, he has a situation. Let's just say that's the most recent question mark that's developed. So for the Packers to get back to winning the division, which to me is my standard of success, at least in the regular season, they need some players and they need some positions to pop. And I think a huge possible pick to click or a huge pop opportunity, is Marshawn Lloyd. I think him being healthy and being the player that the Packers thought he could be when they drafted him, clearly they still think that. He would do so much for this team. Clearly if Jacobs is suspended, but even if he's not, this is more from Ben Sermons last month talking about Marshawn Lloyd and the difference that it would make for the team if he was just healthy and able to play.
Oh, no, of course. I mean, no doubt. I mean, not only if he gives you something, alongside with Josh. I mean, he can do things that the other guys, can't in terms of like his speed and quickness. I don't want to say they can't, but not at the level that he can do it because he's the fastest and the quickest guy, that we have. So, I mean, if he's healthy, and again, that's what we're counting on for him to be there. It does make our job, easier from having another guy back there that's going to add some explosiveness to the offense.
So I need the Marshawn Lloyd specifics. I need those specifics. I like hearing that from a coach. I like being told, hey, here's what Marshawn Lloyd would give us. Hey, here's why we want Marshawn Lloyd for A, B, and C, because I think so many people are like, well, if Marshawn Lloyd's healthy, how great would that be? It's like, well, I don't know. I've never seen him be a pro. People talk about Marshawn Lloyd like he was an MVP level running back a couple of years ago, and we've seen it, and we have proof of concept. He has been healthy. It seems like the Packers have maybe figured out something related to his body. Matt Schneiden in Free Story at The Athletics. I don't feel so bad reading a little bit of it to you. Marshawn Lloyd spent months this offseason working out with Dr. John Meyer in California with the goal of fixing his body. Meyer, who spoke with The Athletic and provided insight into his work with Lloyd, said he began with a comprehensive evaluation of Lloyd's lower body range of motion and his lower body and lumbopelvic strength. Lumbopelvic, obviously, referring to the connection of the lower spine and the pelvis. Duh. Knew that. Lloyd did 2 leg squatting, single leg squatting, jumping, running, cutting, and deceleration exercises in a 3-dimensional motion capture lab that identified where Lloyd was placing stress during those activities. Meyer found Lloyd was overcompensating at his ankle and hip, in part due to residual defects in his knee from a 2020 ACL tear suffered while playing for South Carolina. He also had less quad strength stemming from that injury 6 years ago, too. It's getting him to load those joints in his knee, ankle, and hip in a coordinated fashion to execute all the different cuts and change of direction that he needs to, Meyer said. And after you suffer not only the knee injury, but then the subsequent soft tissue injuries because of the totality of those injuries, some of the compounding factors in time, he was just compensating in some of these patterns. I think mentally and physically, he had to train himself to get through that, and that's what takes time. A typical day for Lloyd at Meyer's facility began with manual treatment to his foot and ankle area and hips to improve mobility. Good God. Then he'd do a dynamic warm-up, strength exercises, and work on his cutting, deceleration, and running mechanics. Lloyd and Meyer incorporated the Packers' offseason running and field program into their work in Southern California. And Meyer has collaborated with the Packers during his time working with Lloyd. Here's my question, and I asked this to Mike Clemens last week. He had knee injuries in college. He was injury-riddled in college. Why did we have to wait 2 seasons for him to, hey, let's go see an expert on this? It's 2 seasons that are wasted. It was the same with Christian Watson. 2 years lost to soft tissue injuries, and then the Packers were like, do you think we should, let's send him to see someone, don't you think? Yes! Send him to see someone. He cost you 2 second-round picks. Send him to see everybody. What are you waiting for? So, great. If they figure out what's wrong with Marshawn Lloyd's body and he's able to play, great. But then I'm just going to be wondering, man, why didn't we do this 2 years ago? 608-321-1670. Just working a little Packers talk into the show. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Just a week of victory laps, Grant. A week of victory laps.
I was kind of hoping when I saw the phone light up that this would be you. Vagabond John, you've talked plenty about Marshawn Lloyd. To the point back when they drafted him, you were skeptical that he would stay healthy.
It's because I have my own experience with knee injuries in the various ways they've recovered, right? My right knee, I tore in 2013 playing Ultimate Frisbee, training for the Madison Hodags. Shout out Hodags out there. Shout out Frisbee Peep.
Yes.
And then in 2018, I tore my left knee. My right knee today, I came back. I was training, same time as Jordy Nelson, same timeline. And same surgeon, a lot of the same physical therapists. And I came back more athletic than I've ever been. I am an average athletic dude, right? Like a person of average athleticism, right? But doing that training, all the science, all the lab at UW-Madison, Jordy Nelson coming into campus, right? During the, this rehab extended in the 2014 Final Four run. It was a really fun part of my life. And I think about that rehab fondly. And that knee, I couldn't have more confidence in. My other knee, my God, right? I'm scared to get out of bed in the morning. Similar injury, very different rehab. I was out of college. I didn't have access to the same resources. I didn't rehab in the same way. And so when I read Marshawn Lloyd's injury history during the draft process, I'm looking at this guy and I'm like, whoa, this has red flags all over it from just a kinesiology perspective when it comes to the way in which his recurring injuries happened on his injured side. This guy sounds a lot like my left knee, not a lot like my right knee. And my concern, Grant, is the exact same that you just shared. Why the hell is this random dude that's calling sports talk radio stations feeling more confident about his eval here than the Packers training staff after 2 years of this guy being in the facility? Like that, when people call into question the Packers sports medicine, right? It's, of course, they're experts. You got to trust the experts. But there's some really obvious BS here that, again, I have a degree in kinesiology, but I'm no expert, right? I'm just this average dude calling the sports talk radio, raising questions that 2 years later, it seems like we're finally interested in solving. So I'm glad they're finally on the same page. If anybody from the Packers is listening, if you want to hire a consultant for the next round of draft, I'm happy to volunteer.
Yeah.
But it crystal clear as day. I called in the day after the draft. Oh, my God, they didn't take Bucky Irving. They took the guy who never fully recovered from an ACL. I'm glad 2 years later we're finally figuring this stuff out.
Well, and
victory lap week after the Dame stuff, but that's all I got.
That's fine, Vagabond. I'm glad you called on this because this is something that you've always brought up. I don't mind you taking a player who was injured in college, but the assumption is, well, they understand the injury and they understand how to proceed. And it seemed like the Packers drafted this guy and said, well, he'll be fine. He got hurt his first year. He'll be fine. And then the second year he got hurt. And then the Packers were like, okay, maybe we should, should we put together some sort of a plan? Yes. Yes. Let's do this from the jump next time. He wasted 2 years. All right. More Packers thoughts. A comment that Zach Heilpern made earlier today on Bill's show that I want to pick up and discuss as we wrap up the first hour of the Wisco Sports Show. We'll be right back.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisco Sports Show Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
you look at what he did against the Bears, that should win a game, Bill. They threw for 323 yards. He had 4 touchdowns. He hit Christian Watson in what could have been a game-winning touchdown there on that last drive. Like, he did it. He did what he was supposed to do, and he did it without having all his weapons all year. Jaden, how much time did Jaden Reed miss? How much time did Tucker Kraft miss? Christian Watson missed the first 8 games of the season. Josh Jacobs is banged up. You were without your starting right tackle for extended period down the stretch. So Jordan Love is your franchise quarterback. I don't know if anybody has a problem with that. Too bad, because that's just the way it is going to be. I need him when you need that first down in that game against Chicago. He played well enough for them to win. Clearly played well enough for the win. They needed 1 or 2 more first downs, and they couldn't get them. And that to me is him coming through in clutch situations. That is when, that's what I want to see from him.
Our final segment, hour number 1. I want to get into the Bucks to begin hour number 2. Jesse Temple at 5:30. But a Packers thought here. I like that comment from Zach saying, "Hey, if you throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, no turnovers in a playoff game, that's got to get it done. You got to find a way to win that game. I don't really even care about all the other things. Like, that's just a game that you need to win." I was reading Matt Verderame. I'm actually not sure. Monday Morning Quarterback, Sports Illustrated. Good story. It's a series where you talk about all the different teams, why this team can or can't win the Super Bowl. And the lead in the story is Green Bay has stability and a strong coach-quarterback tandem, but the team remains a little short on true star power. And I agree with the star power thing. But this is what I talk about when I say coach, quarterback, coach, quarterback, coach, quarterback. Do you believe in the coach? Do you believe in the quarterback? If the Packers' strength is continuity and their quarterback-coach tandem, then their quarterback-coach tandem can never, ever lose games like they lost to the Bears in the wild card round. But the kicker, I don't care. But the defense, yeah, I know. Jeff Hafley wasn't a very good defensive coordinator. Coach, quarterback. How do you rebound from a crushing loss and your most hated rival, no less? The Packers will attempt to answer that question. Green Bay went 9-7-1. God, it was pathetic. And led by 18 points in the first half of last year's NFC wildcard game. Going into 2026, the Packers return with much of the same cast, led by quarterback Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur, together for their 4th season with Love at the controls. But is there enough around them to not only get back to the postseason, but make a real run at a Super Bowl? The Packers are a model of consistency in a league that often doesn't see much of that trait. Green Bay enters its 8th season with LaFleur on the sideline, although he does have a new defensive coordinator in Jonathan Gannon after Jeff Hafley accepted the top job in Miami with the rebuilding Dolphins. LaFleur's run the offense during his tenure in Green Bay, helping the Packers to a 76-40-1 record, winning 3 NFC North titles and making the playoffs 6 times. For LaFleur, though, the pressure is only mounting after Green Bay blew a 21-3 lead to the Bears, yes, leading many to believe at the time that he may have coached his last game with the Packers. As it turned out, LaFleur was given an extension by general manager Brian Gutekunst, who has been with the team since 1999. I don't know that that's a little bit erroneous, because I think it was based on what we've been led to believe. Ed Balsey's making all the decisions. That power has not been returned to the GM. Here's what will continue to be my take, or my overarching just kind of theme with the Packers. Coach, quarterback. You have continuity at coach, quarterback, which, well, there's no continuity in the NFL. Well, I don't know. It doesn't seem to be stopping a lot of these teams, but the Packers have it. Coach, quarterback, coach, quarterback, coach, quarterback. That tandem, that duo needs to be able to win games and slam doors late in a way that they just haven't last year and going back farther as well. 2-minute update. Zach Heilprin get you the headlines and come back and get to the latest with Giannis to begin hour number 2.
It's a Wisconsin update. The Brewers and Guardians going to face off again tonight at American Family Field after the Crew took the opener last night. Milwaukee couldn't get much going offensively, limited to a pair of runs and 4 hits. The rest of the staff held Cleveland down as well. That included Cooper Pratt. He started to find his footing after the tough opening of the season. Hasn't allowed a run in 10 of his last 11 appearances. After Pat Murphy likes where he's at.
I think so. I mean, it's 10 in a row. I don't know how many in a row that he's been really effective. Throwing the ball good. That's the most important thing. And we could interchange him. Uribe hasn't been used as much, and we just try to match it up pretty much. But it looks like we go handle that last inning as well as anyone because he can face righties and lefties.
Tonight, with ball Drew comes in 1-4 with a 5.70 ERA. He had his best start of the season last time out, giving up 1 run over 6 innings of work. The Guardians get it down with Gavin Williams. He's 9-3 with a 3.32 ERA. He got knocked around a little bit in his last outing, giving up 4 runs in 5 innings. First pitch in Milwaukee is set for 6:40.
Everyone should feel confident about their path forward. Exact Sciences has teamed up with UW Athletics to help promote eradicating cancer by preventing it, detecting it earlier, and guiding personalized treatment. The Exact Sciences Athletes Program is unique as it connects UW student athletes with Exact Sciences' work to provide breakthroughs in cancer care and treatment. Exact Sciences and UW Athletics helping raise cancer awareness to make a difference in the Madison community. Learn more at exactsciences.com.
Well, Wisconsin added to its 2027 recruiting class yesterday in the form of edge rusher Brody Fanninsteel. The 3-star recruit from Kansas has been committed to Texas Tech. There are now 23 kids in a class that ranks inside the top 20 in the country. And the Packers are going to close out their OTAs tomorrow with one final practice. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
I'm just really disappointed that he's willing to extend with the Heat.
Really down on the Heat, huh?
Well, it's just punting on the rest of your prime. Just the money. And this to me would be, why are the Heat on the list other than Miami's dope? If he ends up in Boston, and that maybe should be as much of a focus as the Heat side of it, I think that is awesome for everyone involved. I love the idea of Giannis in Boston. I love it. I think he can win there. I think it is a good fit. I think that it is a shakeup they need. Giannis has not played in relevant postseason games in years, and I don't think that'd be different in Miami.
He has focused on wanting to be a member of the Miami Heat, but the Heat and the Bucks have been talking for months and not agreed to a deal because the Bucks don't love the Heat's offer. There are 3 teams involved. There are 4 teams involved.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
All right, hour number 2, the show tonight presented by La Crosse Beer House, corner of 3rd and Pearl, downtown. I bet that place was banged out for state track at the beginning of this month. I'm jealous. One of my favorite events of the year. Everyone comes to town, all the news people, all the sports people, covering so many great stories up there at the track at UWL, and then heading down to 3rd Street to celebrate with a big mug of authentic German beer at La Crosse Beer House, or a fish fry, or a big pretzel, something like that. Luckily, La Crosse Beer House, not just an option during state track, but literally anytime. Stop by after work with some coworkers, or maybe with some friends to get away from your coworkers. Right down there in the mix of it, right in the heart of it, the corner of 3rd and Pearl in downtown La Crosse. Always appreciative of La Crosse Beer House for partnering up with the show anytime we want to go somewhere to broadcast or anytime we're on location. I want to start this hour with Giannis. I'm not going to lie, I've been a little surprised with you folks. The appetite to talk Giannis has been a little bit bigger than I would have guessed. We're not going to do 2 hours on it every night, but it seems like that's the topic other than, reacting to the night before the Brewer game. It seems like the Giannis story is the one that has people most riled up. We did an hour on it. We did like an hour and a half on it today on Bill's show, taking lots of calls and lots of commentary. It seems right now, and you kind of heard that from Brian Windhorst in the intro to this hour and talked about this yesterday, that we're in a bit of a holding pattern. The Heat want Giannis. Giannis wants to go to the Heat. The Bucks don't really love the Heat's current offer, so they're waiting. We're seeing if we could drum up interest from Boston. I don't know, Orlando, are you sure? Atlanta, are you sure? Houston, are you sure? Minnesota, what about you guys? You guys think you're just going to naturally catch up with San Antonio or with Oklahoma City? You guys need to make a big deal, right? So we're trying to drum up interest, trying to drum up a higher price. Now, we have been getting some report today, or some reporting. Lori Nickel had it. Chris Haynes had it as well. And I don't know this to a fact, to a man, but I would maybe think a little bit more closely about something reported by Chris Haynes. He's had a pretty direct line to the Bucks now, mostly because Dame was there, but I don't think that's something that you lose, even when Dame went back to Portland this last year. But here's what Chris Haynes wrote. From what I'm hearing, this can drag into free agency. This could drag on until July. The Bucks are not operating that this is the deadline. There isn't anything official yet on Giannis as far as teams that are really in play and have some momentum. Boston doesn't seem as promising of a destination as we thought. I think there's interest, but there's not a clear sign as of right now that that's their number one objective. That's not to say they've pulled out, not to say they won't try anything when July hits. I have no clear-cut signs that they're dead set on him as of right now. If that's to be the case, we're back to square one as far as speculation goes and what's going to happen. I do ultimately believe he's moved this offseason, but I'm not certain, as I was before, that will be done before the draft. My interpretation of all this, and it's not some brilliance on my behalf, it's just common sense. The Bucks really were wanting to trade him before the draft, but they're not going to trade him before the draft just because they have to if they feel like the offer stinks. So they'll wait. We can hang around. We can wait for the landscape to change. We can wait for Jaylen Brown to become unhappy and ask out or whatever. I do think it gets tricky the closer you get to the season. Taylor Jenkins is trying to start this thing in Milwaukee and start building this thing in Milwaukee. Giannis being there or not being there is a pretty big question. We've seen players dealt very late in the cycle. Damian Lillard was an August trade. So it can happen. I believe free agency is in July. Historically, it has been. Nobody pays attention to free agency anymore because, well, nobody becomes a free agent. I'll continue to go back to Miami. It seems like Miami wants to do this, and it seems like Giannis wants to be there. I played you that sound from Nick Wright yesterday where it's like, man, I don't get it. Why if Giannis is truly, if his number one thing is trying to win a championship, why Miami? It's going to be him and Bam Adebayo and not much else because a lot of the other stuff, the Heat will have to trade in order to get Giannis. You know who else agrees? Doc Rivers, Bill Simmons. I cut this audio from, I don't know if it was yesterday's podcast or the day before. This is the latest Bill Simmons podcast.
Miami's the one I can't figure out unless they have other moves coming that I don't know. Cause it's like, all right, it's him and Bam, but you just traded everybody else. So like, where are you going?
And you would have traded your closer because Tyler Hero's a closer.
Right.
You know, say what you want about him, but he's a straight up
So why
closer.
would I want to go laterally?
Yeah.
I would just rather stay in Milwaukee at that point.
Is, that's where he's trusting their front office that they have the ability to add more pieces. You know, those are the talks we're not in. You know,
after the last two rounds of basketball we watched, like you need like 7, 8 dudes.
You need a lot of guys.
It can't just
so I'm going to pause it there. That seems to be the pervasive thought. I think Ty Winder said this last night. Giannis going to Miami, the attraction to Miami, basketball-wise, is that, well, I believe in Pat Riley, and I believe in the Heat's front office to put the team in place, to bring in the necessary pieces. And in theory, that makes sense. But let's specifically think about this. If the Heat give up this year's first-round pick, next year's first-round pick, and 2 or 3 players, maybe it's Tyler Hero and 2 young guys, what do the Heat have? What pieces then are left for them to go make other moves? Like I always think of the quote from not The Big Chill. What's the movie? Not The Big Chill. The one with Steve Carell, the finance crash. With what instrument, Michael? Michael Burry, The Big Short. That's it. With what instrument, Michael? Like I want to short the whatever. With what instrument? You know, they had to come up with a thing. They had to create I don't remember. I shouldn't use the example, but I like the movie so much that I can't even remember the name of the movie. The same with Miami. It's like, well, Miami has a smart front office. They'll make the moves. With what instrument, Giannis? They won't have any picks left these next 2 years. They won't have all of their young players left. So I know Heat culture, Pat Riley. It's funny, we don't talk about Heat culture when they're in the play-in every year. Bam and Giannis is not exactly a seamless fit. There hasn't really been many seamless fits with Giannis. Chris Middleton in moments. You know, there were moments in that playoff run where they really synergized well, but over the course of a long season, I don't know. Here's more from Doc and Bill Simmons.
You and Bam Adebayo, and it can't be you and Jason Tatum.
Yeah. Well, the Celtics still have a lot of players.
No, I know, but
so
I'm just
there's a much safer thing for him. The only thing from the Celtics point of view is you are shortening your window. You know, because Giannis is older and Brown is younger.
Well, Giannis is older with more miles on him, too.
But you also maybe, after that window, giving yourself a chance to have another window with Jason Tatum.
Right.
You know what I mean? So It depends on how the front offices look at it.
What would you do if you were Boston?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It is, and to be fair to Doc, it is really tough. The Celtics right now, I think, are in a place similar to the Bucks in, what was that, 2023? Coming off a really disappointing playoff exit, feeling like, well, we have to do something. Like, we just can't continue to run it back. Now, it's a little bit different in Boston because their stars aren't the same age. Like, Middleton was getting older. Holiday's getting older. Brook Lopez is getting older. The Celtics have a little bit more runway, at least with their two superstars. Tatum's also coming off an Achilles. Now, he's much younger, but that's a turd in the punch bowl. At least it's some sort of a turd in some sort of a punch bowl. Maybe that changes the way the Celtics operate. Maybe it doesn't. But I think the Celtics are probably sitting around this offseason thinking, do we have to do something? I don't think action for the sake of action is always a good thing. But I think there's so many examples in sports. There's so many instances in sports where you look back and think, we should have known 3 years ago. Why did we not see it? Why did we not realize it? We might be in the middle of that with the Packers right now. We might get 2 years down the road from now, and the Packers end up canning Matt LaFleur, and we all look back and think, why did they not fire him after they blew that lead to the Bears? It was so obvious. You know what I mean? I think this was the case with McCarthy. Now, the McCarthy one was a little bit tougher. I don't blame the Packers for handling it the way that they did. This is a true hindsight is 2020 situation. But knowing what we know now, the Packers just should have moved off from McCarthy after 2014 because that thing was kind of broken after that. And, Jordy Nelson got hurt and Rodgers got hurt, but it was just never the same. It was never the same with the Bucks after, losing to the Heat in the first round. But the Bucks tried, like there was, we are going to go get Damian Lillard. We're going to change the coach, right? All of these different sorts of things. And I wonder if the Celtics aren't sitting there today and thinking, if we just continue to try with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and Joe Mazzulla, aren't we really just tempting fate for disappointing playoff exits in each of the next 2 years? That's what I think the Packers are doing right now. I don't think it's insane that they're continuing with Matt LaFleur, but I think the most likely outcome is you're going to get second or third in the division, and you're going to be a 7 seed, and you're going to go on the road in the first round of the playoffs, and you're really going to be in a tough spot. Like, I think that's probably what will happen. And if I ran the Celtics, I'd be thinking, okay, if we don't change our best player, if we don't change our second best player, if we don't make some sort of big change around the fringes, if we don't change the coach, why is it going to be different compared to what happened against the Knicks or what happened against the Sixers? So that's what I think the Celtics must be weighing right now. Now, to go and get Giannis and to blow up their roster for it outside of Jason Tatum would be pretty significant, but I do think they're in an interesting spot. And maybe the longer this drags out, maybe they become a little bit more tempted to do something. I don't know, but it feels like the Heat's offer is not up to snuff with what the Bucks want right now. And part of me thinks, this is a Windhorst on ESPN Los Angeles earlier today, part of me thinks the Heat just like, we need to do something. We're irrelevant, we're boring, we suck. The Heat just want to make a trade. Listen to this.
If Miami has spent the last 4 or 5 months thinking about what they're going to trade for Giannis, and Giannis either doesn't get traded or gets traded somewhere else, maybe somebody else calls the Heat and says, hey, while those guys are still on the table, can we have another discussion?
Right.
And there could be a number of teams that could get involved with that.
I don't know. So the Giannis package now all of a sudden is I don't know. It feels to me, what I'm hearing is the Heat are like, please take our trade. Somebody take our trade. Please take Hero and these young, just please. I think Miami's dying for a superstar, dying for something. It's not on the Bucks to accommodate them. Although I don't think the Heat's offer, the assumed offer, is that bad. I just think if you're trading Giannis, you need to make sure that you are getting absolutely everything you possibly can. And I don't think the Bucks clearly feel that way about the Heat's offer right now. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
This is Louie in Eau Claire.
Hey, what's going on, Louie? Sorry we couldn't get you on with Bill earlier today. Gerard was long-winded.
Gerard?
Oh.
They're on the network, I think. But are you still there?
Yeah, I lost you for a sec. What'd you say about Gerard?
I think he could have his own show on the network. That guy, you just pick a quarter and he can go for a while.
He can go for a while. Yes, you are correct.
No, I guess on the whole Giannis thing, so he's entering his 14th year in the league, and he's only 32. By NBA standards, that's not real old. I kind of feel like, even as a Bucks fan, though, and looking through Bucks colored glasses, his value seems to be a little bit over what it actually is. I think one of the under talked about things of Giannis he's aptly named the Freak. All right, with his wingspan, he's freakishly athletic. He's not a traditional back to the basket player, a la Shaq or Kareem. Every great NBA player who's been around for that long has developed some sort of a jump shot.
Or like
LeBron,
with Kareem, there was touch. You know what I mean?
Right.
He was not physically dominant to shoot the sky hook, and like he was balance and grace and like ballet. So that it's almost like his post game was kind of a jump shot in and of itself. You know what I mean, Louis? It kind of served that same physical purpose.
Because LeBron's been on a physical decline for what, 10 to 12 years, but he's improved at the finer points of basketball, the shooting aspects of it, that sort of thing. I don't think Giannis has really improved that part of his game since like 2017, 18, 19, 20, when they were right in the kind of the championship window. So as he further declines physically, and he might be what he is physically for a while yet, I don't think he's made up for it. And I think that's part of the reason why the Bucks haven't been as successful. If he had developed a 15-foot shot that he could make with, 45 to 50% regularity, he becomes unguardable. I'm not saying it's because he's lazy or not driven to do it, but for whatever reason, he hasn't been able to. If I were another team, I would be kind of a little bit gun shy about giving that sort of ransom. A couple of years ago, the T-Wolves gave up 5 first-round picks for an aging Rudy Gobert. I think that's kind of the last of those trades. Looking back, that seems like kind of a foolish trade to me. I'm not an NBA executive. But are you really going to throw a bunch of players and picks at a 32-year-old guy who can't shoot? To me, I wouldn't do that.
So, and this goes back to something that, Louis, appreciate the call, we talked about with Justin a few weeks ago, where, well, I'm not going to tease the clip. I'll just play it here in a sec. I'm with you, and specifically on Giannis, Louis. Let me zoom back in on your call. I was going to try to make a greater point, but let me just address what you said. I think at times we've seen Giannis add things to his game. I think his mid-range 2 years ago was actually really improved. And then he gets hurt, or like last year, he misses a lot of time. His three-point shot has never been there. I don't know that his post-game has ever been super crisp and perfect. His mid-range game has shown up in for long stretches, to be fair. But then, like, if he gets injured or he misses a stretch, like the rhythm was certainly disrupted last year. It hasn't been, to your point, Louis, it's just not enough. There hasn't been enough additions to his game. And I don't necessarily think it's through lack of trying or hard work. I just don't know that physically he's been able to figure it out. So, one more call here, and then we'll take a break. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Evening, Grant.
Evening, Tim from Sparta. Folksy as ever.
How are you doing?
Not too bad. How about you?
Well, I'm going to go back to the Packers real quick. Unless this DC that they currently have is Steve Spagnuolo, it's going to end the same way with a head coach that's not a head coach that's just as better than average.
So I'm struggling to hear you. Can you got to put your mouth right next to your phone or something, Tim? What'd you say about Steve Spagnuolo?
I said unless they found a defensive coordinator.
Yep.
That is for Green Bay.
Yes.
That is as good as Steve Spagnuolo.
Okay.
It's going to end exactly the same way.
Yeah.
Because he won't get his nose out of his book on the sideline and be a head coach.
Sure.
He is a better than average offensive coordinator, but as a head coach, he just sucks. Going back to Giannis right now, if he would take $150 million or $125 million instead of, what is it, 257?
Yeah.
With the understanding that they could then take that other 100 to 125 million and actually offer some great talent. I would love to see Giannis stay, but he's not going to do that. And so I hate to see him go, but take what you can get, as much as you can get, and move on from him. Otherwise, we're going to be in basically hell.
Yeah.
Years.
You're gonna be stuck with it's like driving a car into the ground, right, Tim? I appreciate the call. It was tough to hear you, but I got the last couple minutes there. You're driving a car into the ground, which is fine for a car. If you have means to eventually buy the next car, building a team in the NBA isn't that simple. I am with you on all of that, Tim, and on Matt LaFleur with his head in the playbook specifically. I think they need to take the best available offer at some point this offseason. I don't think you can push this to the deadline. I don't think you can take this into training camp. Maybe you don't have to do it before the draft, but you have to have a pretty good feeling that you're going to get better draft assets and better things down the line if you're waiting past this trade or this, this draft to make that deal. Let's take a break. Another thought or two on this, and then we'll work towards Jesse Temple to talk Badgers at 5:30.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
If that's where we head, that there's a trade here, even though the optics are going to dictate otherwise, the Bucs are probably going to win the trade because more often than not, you don't win a championship. You don't find that success with the next team because you're trading a guy who's going to be 32 in December. For the last 4 years, there have been injuries that have had an impact of his game. It has to frighten you at least a little bit that the mid-range shot that was there a couple of years ago has vanished all of a sudden. He's never been a good free throw shooter. So there's those aspects to the game that you cannot help but question, how is this going to age, right? Like I understand you can get in the paint and finish at the rim now. Can you do that consistently when you're 34 and 35 and 36? Look at every other instance of these trades. I mean, we saw it 2 years ago in our own backyard here where you traded for Dame, didn't work out, and it also wasn't Giannis's fault. It was Dame's fault in the eyes of many Bucks fans. It doesn't tend to work out when you make those trades. That's why I say the reality is the Bucks are very likely to win the trade if there is a trade that takes place, even if you look at it and you say, I'll just throw numbers out, for example, here, like, oh, they only got 2 or 3 first-round picks, and they got this player that isn't even an all-star, and this guy, like, wow, they got fleeced, but it's probably not going to prove to be the case.
Justin Garcia, that was a couple weeks ago, and I don't remember exactly how that came up, but I thought it was a great point where, in true Justin style, he's like, look, the Bucks are probably going to win this trade. And I think the Bucks will win this trade if Giannis goes to Miami. I think they'll win this trade if he goes to most places. If he goes to Boston and it's Tatum and Giannis and a pretty good cast of young players who can defend and shoot, I could see that working. I could also see, Giannis being hurt and the Celtics shoot too many threes and they lose prematurely in the playoffs as they have the last 2 years. You know what I mean? I could see that thing too. But, 2 or 3 first-round picks from Miami, 2 young players and Tyler Hero. I know everyone says, well, it's terrible. Rudy Gobert went for... Well, yeah, I don't know that we're going to see a lot of Rudy Gobert trades. I also think that... I don't know this to be true, but I think the Timberwolves traded for Rudy Gobert at a time where I don't know that the Jazz had to sell Rudy Gobert. I think the perception around the NBA right now is the Bucks have to trade Giannis. And they've put a deadline on themselves, which is the draft or this offseason, understandably so. I think the Wolves maybe had to convince. They had to do some convincing with Gobert. I also think the league changes all the time. And it was a different time when Rudy Gobert was dealt. I think we've seen the NBA and the competitive practices just change a little bit, adjust a little bit. The league's just not the same league that it was maybe a couple years ago when that happened. And that'll be true in 3 or 4 years, probably true because Adam Silver's always tinkering with things. Jared in DeForest earlier says Celtics to Bucks is not the same as Vikings to Packers. I'd give that nod to the Pacers, Bulls, or Pistons, regional teams. I don't know. For me, the most painful team, to be honest, to go to might be the Celtics. The Pacers, everyone just forgot that the Pacers existed. I actually think they'd be a great fit for him. Just put him in the Pascal Siakam role. Whew. I think it could work. On the Packers, it's from the 608, says pessimistic is the logical and rational feeling. Based on 7 years of evidence of this head coach leading teams in Green Bay with multiple coordinators, anything more is hope. Whatever comes along, Matt has shown he will blow the opportunity by sticking too long with players and coaches who will fail. I'll give you Keyshawn Nixon as the guy who should not be on the field, fumble in Philly in that pathetic performance in Chicago. I'll defend Nixon and I'll defend Matt LaFleur on Keyshawn Nixon. Who else is he supposed to put out there? They have nobody. They haven't drafted a corner since Eric Stokes in 2021. He should bench Nixon. For who? Do you want him to play Bo Melton? Because I think that's probably who would have been up next. Nixon's a hammerhead and does a bunch of dumb stuff. So yeah, get on him for that. He's got to know better. But Matt LaFleur, whoa, how's he still out there? Brother, who? Like they tried to bench Carrington Valentine with Kamal Hadden, I believe, in that Baltimore game. And Kamal Hadden broke his ankle or something. Like they straight up ran out of bodies. Grainman Mike says, Grant, the issue is that you baby that car for years and you took care of it to the best of your ability. And then one day it just doesn't want to work for you anymore. I think that's what the frustrating part is in all of this. Now you're trying to take that to the used car lot to get some more money out of the dealership and they don't want to pay. It's an interesting analogy. There is a lot of varying opinion on Giannis and the Bucks. And I brought this up to Bill earlier today. There's some people, Bucks fans, I see these things being written and said by others where it's like, why are they trading Giannis? They should not trade Giannis. Under no circumstances should they trade Giannis. If he won't extend, then you keep him this year and you don't trade him. If he eventually walks away, then fine, he walks away. You don't trade him. You're the Bucks, it's Giannis. You don't trade him. That is the perspective of some. And then it's the perspective of others where it's like, you should trade him 2 years ago. Should have maximized him. Should have got the most out of him. And then folks are in the middle. I think I'm in the middle. I don't think you should flippantly trade a guy like this, but I don't think you should go down with the ship any more than maybe they already have. And then there's some people who look at Giannis and said, okay, so the Bucks have traded all their picks. They've spent all their money. They've changed coaches for you. And now you don't want to return that loyalty by sticking around when things aren't so great. And I understand why fans would look at him and say, man, that kind of sucks. But I also understand that Giannis is like, well, what am I supposed to do? I have a finite playing career. I want to go compete for titles. I get that. Not if he goes to Miami, because I don't think Miami's that much better. I think it'll be mostly the same in Miami. It'll be warmer, sure. But then just say that. I don't want to live in Milwaukee anymore. It's cold. I want to try something else. Okay. But don't shroud it in, I want to compete for a championship, and I want to try to win a championship. You know what I mean? Jesse Temple, Badger Connect, is going to join us next on the other side. Talk some of the Badgers' recent recruiting wins. The 2027 class is now up to 23 players. They flipped the player from Texas Tech earlier this week. We'll discuss a couple Badgers things, and he's got a Badger Bite out today with Melvin Gordon. Pretty cool. All that coming up next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Shopping for new windows and doors shouldn't feel like a negotiation. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin doesn't believe in games. They never inflate pricing, and there's no high-pressure sales pitch. Just premium windows and doors built for long-term comfort, beauty, and peace of mind. Buy direct through Pella, and one trusted team handles everything with Pella certified installers every step of the way. Real pricing, premium quality, no games. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Schedule your free in-home consultation today at PellaWI.com.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Jesse. Hey, Jesse. 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 Jesse.
Jesse! Jesse Temple. Be here momentarily. We'll have a little time at the very end of the show to take some more calls. Maybe final Brewers thoughts before we say farewell for the evening. The Brewers Brandon Sproat night tonight. So everything I said about Robert Gasser yesterday and today, same goes for Brandon Sproat. Double higher ceiling player. So I not only want to see him kind of continue to establish himself, but get better, because the ceiling with him and his stuff is pretty high. Before we get to that final segment and talk more Brewers, take more of your phone calls, here's my conversation from earlier today with Jesse Temple. Enjoy. Jesse Temple is back. Jesse joins us every Wednesday. Of course, you can find his work at Badger Connect, and he's on the camp with Zach Heilprin as well. Another outstanding episode out earlier today. And I want to talk about some of the things that you and Zach covered, but first I want to talk about your latest Badger Bite. You teased this last week. You talked with Melvin Gordon about his record-setting day, and was that I suppose mid-November 2014 when he ran for over 400 yards in 3 quarters. And looking back, maybe you can tell me, does he wish that he would have played the rest of the game, knowing that his record would fall shortly thereafter?
I didn't ask if he wished he would have played the rest of the game, but hindsight is 2020. I'm sure if he knew that a week later someone was going to break his record and they'd be really going for it late in the game, or at least into the fourth quarter, he would have said, "Hey man, I know we're up 4 touchdowns against Nebraska, but I got 408 yards. Let's see what happens." I did ask him how many yards he thought he would have rushed for if he had been given the opportunity to play all 4 quarters. He said 480 being modest, 500 wasn't out of the question. I kind of feel like, let's just go for 600. I mean, the way he was, as he said, busting 40 and 60-yard runs, he was unstoppable. But yeah, it's a great conversation with Melvin. I always enjoyed covering him because he was candid. He was funny. If he didn't have a good game, he'd let you know. And if he had a great game, he was just always honest about whatever was happening. And so he's still the same Melvin. And of course, we did this in part because he is one of the 12 inductees into the UW Athletics Hall of Fame 2026 class. Certainly well-earned, the best single season I ever saw, and maybe ever will at Wisconsin as a running back.
It's tough to say that 500 is modest, but based on my memory of that day and the yards before contact in that game and what I remember just like visually, I wasn't keeping stats at the time. I wasn't the high level sports professional that I am today, Jesse. So I wasn't tracking these things, but I feel like he had a hole the size of, I don't know, fill in the blank. Like, I feel like he was getting 10, 12 yards before defenders were even touching him in that game. I think he gets 500 easy.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. It was magical. I mean, I can still remember the last score, and that's included in the video. But the way that the chant of Melvin Gordon cascaded around the stadium through the snow, good times.
Good times. Speaking of, not that these times aren't good times. They're not as good. Did you talk with him at all about the current state of the program and what he's seen as an alumni, as an outsider now?
Not as part of this interview. I mean, I'm sure it's frustrating when you played at such a high level to watch the program not win games, but the program feels like they've put themselves on a better track here this offseason. Time will tell. They're still doing well in the recruiting game, which is pretty impressive in its own right, but maybe even more so when you consider that they haven't won and they just picked up another recruit to add to their 2027 class. Hope springs eternal this time of year, but that's why you decided on the field in the fall.
Yeah, and that was next on my list. They flipped a recruit in 2027 Brody Fannensteel, edge rusher from Texas Tech. They've had quite the week or two. But did I read correctly? He's the number 4 player in the state of Kansas?
Yeah, he is. And it's interesting because now Wisconsin's up to 23 commits in the 2027 class.
Huge.
The initial plan was somewhere in the 18 to 20 range. And then when you have plan A targets on the first couple of official visit weekends, you're willing to probably be a little bit more flexible on if those guys want to come. Well, there's a reason that you had them up there. And I think even now more than ever, you're willing to say, not be like, well, we have 2 edge guys, and so we're not going to take a third. I mean, if you can get quality, you can get it. And they've got what they consider 4 linebackers that can be utilized in different ways. So he's more of they have like their Sam and their Jack. Their Sam is their strong side. Their Jack is sort of that hybrid dude who's really athletic and can play on the edge in space, but they want to blitz and do all sorts of things. I think they project him more as a Sam, but there's a bunch of different body types because he's 225 pounds, but there are other guys who are considered edge players who are 250 and even 270. So it's interesting how they've put this whole group together.
So 2 follow-ups on Fannensteel. You talk about body types and the way they're building it up. Have you noticed differences in the way that Luke Fickell and Tressel, the way that they have identified and recruited and wanted to build their defense, maybe differences in the way they're doing it versus, Leonard, Wilcox, Aranda? Is there anything that's jumped out to you, maybe a way they're looking to build the talent and to fill out that room?
The term that you would hear often from Mike Tressel in recent years was length and athleticism. Every coach wants it. I think we've seen it more on the back end in the secondary with some of the guys and body types, 6'3", 6'4". You don't necessarily always see that from a DB. And that's not to say they don't still have 5'10" bulldogs who can play different positions. But that's an area that I think has changed. And just look at the quarterback room. I mean, things have been heading in this direction. And not the first coach who's wanted mobile quarterbacks, Gary Anderson way back when, but you need a quarterback who can also throw the ball. And Wisconsin has worked hard to add that. And so those are some changes. Ultimately, doesn't matter what scheme you run, doesn't matter any of that stuff. Can you win consistently in the Big Ten? And they're still trying to figure that out.
Physicality, playing along the lines with different body types or not. Like, can you figure out the physicality thing and hold with teams like Iowa and Nebraska? So 23 people in this class. I think you mentioned this on the camp with Zach. So I'm sorry if I'm asking you to repeat yourself, but is it maybe the strategy of high school football players to say, okay, I'm going to commit, I'm going to play my senior season, and if down the line somewhere I want to change or I want to adjust it, I can? Because I guess I would look sideways at a bunch of players who are jumping into a class that already has, 23 or 23 players.
It completely depends on the person. And I think that this class, because it has 10 in-state guys, might be a little more insulated from that, just because these guys grew up rooting for the Badgers and have had ample opportunity to see this program. Where it gets tricky is if the program is having a lot of trouble on the field and there are questions about the coaching staff, because we saw this last year. They got some commits, and then toward the end of the recruiting cycle, they lost those commits because the offense wasn't very good and guys were questioning whether they wanted to be a part of it. And certainly other schools are going to come in and talk about that and maybe offer more money over the top, those kinds of things. But I think if Wisconsin wins games this year and the staff is back, or the bulk of the staff, then you'll see guys willing to stick it out. Ultimately, they have to make the best decisions for themselves, because in the early signing period, that's in December. And if you get to November and you're unsure what's happening with the program, you might be more apt to bail. But it does depend on the individual. And as we do know in this era, just because you have them committed doesn't mean you have them signed. That's a process over the next 6 months or so where you've got to figure out how to hold on.
You might be more apt to bail, especially when you committed in the first place and you were kind of maybe unsure. And to your point, they might be more insulated in this class because they have so many guys from in-state who probably are not, questioning their choice already, where maybe somebody, the 22nd or 23rd guy in the class said, okay, well, this will suit me for now. I'm going to play my senior season. If I have to revisit, I can. Well, maybe then if Wisconsin's season doesn't go well, or there's, changes in coaches, maybe those players more so than the in-state guys are maybe at risk for that. Jesse Temple is here. You can read his work, Badger Connect. Can we peek at the 2028 class for just a moment, Jesse? Getting real deep into recruiting here. Trey, is it Euler, in-state guy from Heartland, 4-star composite tight end? Is this a name that you and your Badger beat members have started to talk about as a big in-state guy for next year? Maybe they look to continue some of this in-state momentum, because that's a player that's got offers from everywhere.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we're also in an age where guys get recognized earlier and earlier. I feel as though the days of the senior eval in the state, you don't see that as frequently. That doesn't mean that Wisconsin can't offer an in-state player late, which, going back to the 27 class, they did in a couple of instances. Jack Tabbert is an offensive lineman from Pewaukee who was committed to North Dakota State. Keegan Wolin hoped for a Wisconsin offer, didn't get it after attending a practice, and 5 days later committed to Iowa State. Well, Wisconsin was able to end up flipping him. But yeah, I mean, the top tier 4-star talent, those guys are getting looks as sophomores. And so it would be great, because he's a name to know, for Wisconsin to be able to get him. Tough to say that we're going to see the talent across the board in the way that we've seen in 27, where you've got 10 legit Wisconsin guys, and Richie Flanagan they offered, and he went to Notre Dame, which is a family legacy. There's just so much talent there, but they're doing all they can to keep the best players in the state and continue to build this.
Pardon my ignorance. Are official visits done, or do we still have a few weekends of those yet?
As far as I know, they're done. I mean, we've already had 3 weekends, and really the first 2 were the ones that you got as many people as you could. Those
are the priority guys that they get on campus early on.
Yeah, I mean, if you get this late in the process, maybe there's a specific position you feel like you're missing on, but a lot of times those guys have committed too, because they've taken 3 official visits. So I thought they were done a week ago when they got to 22, but Fanninsteel was still out there, and he took his official to Wisconsin. And of course, if you are committed to a school and taking officials elsewhere, you're definitely not committed to that school. And so it's a good job by the staff of getting him to flip. And now they've got 4 players that have flipped from the 27 class.
Speaking of flips, it's just one thing, and I'd forgotten about this until now, but something I saw over the weekend, the South Florida safety, Makai Williams, is that the name again?
Yep.
I saw him tweet in a response to, I don't know if it was a fan or whatever, who basically replied to him like, well, okay, well, you can just join Florida State down the line, or you'll eventually come back to Florida State. And it caught my eye. Of course, I can't find the tweet now, where he basically came out and said, like, no, I'm done. Like the opposite of what you were just describing. Whereas if you're committed but still taking visits, you're not really committed. It seems like that guy is the opposite. Like, based on what I've seen on Twitter, and I'm not deep in recruiting Twitter, maybe like you, but that seems pretty rock solid.
Well, again, everyone is different, and his situation was a bit unique. I wrote about him when he committed. There were a lot of factors that led him to Wisconsin. And for those listening, Makai Williams is a 4-star defensive back, one of the highest rated DBs that Wisconsin's been able to secure, and was previously committed to Florida State. Wisconsin initially reached out. It was Jake Chaney, who's a former Badgers player who's from Florida, was on Luke Fickell's staff last season, reached out to the head coach there, not about Makai Williams, but just to develop relationships with coaches in Florida. Seems like a pretty good area to recruit and learn more about the programs and the teams. And it didn't take long for them to see, hey, there's this guy, Makai Williams, who's been committed to Florida State. So that certainly helped. The fact that Robert Steeples went to Wisconsin and they were able to develop a relationship. But this came down in part to Florida State fired its cornerbacks coach, Patrick Surtain Sr., and they had a really strong relationship. And so that sort of opened the door. And as it turned out, Steeples is from St. Louis. The high school coach, KB Belton of Makai Williams, also from St. Louis. They're the same age. They played against each other growing up, didn't know each other well, but that was just another thing, a coincidence that allowed the door to be open. And all of it led to Makai feeling like, okay, I want to see it. I really like it here. And yeah, he decommitted from Florida State on a Sunday. By then, he probably told the staff that he was coming to Wisconsin. It just took until later in the week.
What do they say success is when, what is it?
What is it? The hard work and opportunity? Or
or preparation and opportunity. Maybe that's what came to mind. Wisconsin had those relationships formed, and they were in position, and then an opportunity arose, and they were able to jump on it. Just to wet our basketball whistle here in the middle of June, Jesse, you have a story out about Jackson Ball. I'm going to be better this year learning about all these cats before the season started, because last season I felt like we got to October, November, and I'm watching games unaware of some of these guys. So you at Badger Connect are giving Badger basketball fans a little bit of an opportunity to learn some of these guys and get to know them in the summer before, we get into games and we don't recognize who we're seeing on Big Ten Network.
Zach talked to associate head coach Joe Krabinoff on the swing on the last episode of the swing we did. And man, he is high on Jackson Ball and then talking about how there's an expectation that he can contribute as a freshman. We'll see how it all plays out, but he's been regarded as one of the top young players in New Zealand for several years. The Kirk Penny Kiwi connection, as Jackson Ball called it when I talked to him, was a big deal here, because there really weren't any other schools that he said were recruiting him like as early as Wisconsin. It was just like, this fits. I like it. I like the system. Hayden Jones, who's also from New Zealand, ended up coming to Wisconsin and was a big factor after Kirk Penny left the job to return home to New Zealand. But Ball, it's interesting because these guys coming from Europe and Australia and New Zealand, they've been playing professionally. So maybe it's a different level of professional basketball, certainly than the NBA, but they've been playing against old guys. He had one of his teammates was JaVale McGee, who you may remember from playing in the NBA for a long time and won 3 NBA championships. And so he's got a lot of experience, and he had a real breakout season a couple of years ago in what is considered maybe the second tier division of the National Basketball League over there. His season opener, 2 days after he turned 17, he scored 40 points. 3 days after that, he scored 36. And as he told me, he was like, this is what I do. So he's got a lot of confidence. He can shoot the hell out of it. He can get to the rim. And I think it's going to be great competition at those guard spots for how Wisconsin's going to figure out how to distribute minutes.
Jesse, we appreciate your time on this show and, of course, your coverage at Badger Connect. Is there anything that we should watch for in the days and the weeks to come specifically?
Well, I did have a chance recently, since we're on the basketball train here, to talk to Jaylen Brown, who's the 4-star guard from Wauwatosa and is going to be in the 2027 class. He's a top 100 player. So really big deal for Wisconsin to get a player of that caliber from inside the state. So that'll be running. A lot more Badger Bites on the way. I actually just got back. This isn't running for a few weeks, but played a set of tennis against Wisconsin's top women's tennis player who just finished up her career and is turning pro. Spoiler alert, she kicked my ass.
Yeah.
But I didn't embarrass myself.
Okay. All right. Did you have any tennis experience at all?
I played is doing a lot of work in this sentence, but 2 seasons of Division III tennis at Knox College. I wasn't really good enough to be in the regular rotation, but I got some occasional matches, won a few of them. But I had not played tennis in 19 years. My racket is the same. The grip was disintegrating as I was holding it. My hand was turning black. Like, I'm just glad I didn't keel over, but it sort of rekindled a bit of love for the sport. It was fun to be out there.
You played college tennis. That's not something you put in air quotes. You were a collegiate athlete in more than one sport. You know,
I mean, I went there for basketball, but it was like, it's spring. Let's do something different. So I did do tennis for a couple seasons.
Good for you. Well, I look forward to that now. That's a perfect teaser. Thank you for the time, Jesse. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Grant. Talk soon.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
This is the future of the shortstop position in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. There you see a 6th-round pick back in 2023. Excellent selection by the Brewers. They paid him above slot back then to get all those tools into the organization, and he has certainly made good on that investment. A really good fundamental defender. He's tall, Lauren, and so certainly you see that stroke, the swing, the power is coming, and he is likely to be the shortstop in Milwaukee for a very, very long time.
John Morosi, MLB Network, earlier today, just talking about the arrival, the skill set of Cooper Pratt. Just kind of gets us into the end of the show here. Brewers lineup is out for tonight. Obviously, game starts in now less than an hour. Yelich leading off again. Okay, cool. Churio, Terrain, Contreras, Bowers, Frelick in right, Mitchell, Pratt, Hamilton, and Sproat on the mound. I like the Mitchells in the lineup again. Vaughn is available off the bench, which I certainly prefer as a bench option to Sal Frelick. Didn't have to go that way last night. Luckily, Brewers win, so no harm, no foul. I mean, no harm. It's clearly the matchup the Brewers liked, I guess. My point on that earlier on in the show is if your equation is giving you the solution of Sal Frelick, your equation is no good. Well, we crunched the numbers and says Sal Frelick over Andrew Vaughn. Well, then the process by which you're crunching the numbers is not correct. So tonight, obviously excited to watch Pratt more at shortstop, but I think anytime that Gasser and Sproat are on the mound, I'm going into those games thinking, okay, are we going to see another step? Are we going to see continued growth? You know, that's what I'm watching. That's what I'm focused on top of course, trying to get a win. Obviously, for Aaron Ashby, I mean, clearly now into double-digit wins with his 10th last night. We'll pick this up tomorrow. More Brewers talk. Maybe we'll get a development on Giannis. It seems like maybe we're going to be circling the runway and the tarmac here for a while. But who knows? Things change very, very quickly. So any news that comes out of Packers rookie minicamp this week, certainly we'll talk about too. And I guess the Packers have, to use Rob Domofsky's wording here, they have Packers take center stage in the political fight over the NFL's antitrust exemption. We'll get into that a little bit tomorrow, too. Kind of political, but also kind of fun. We can kick that around for a little bit. Enjoy the Brewer game tonight. Thank you for listening. As always, podcast up in just a couple minutes.